just introduce Michelle. So yeah, we're live now on Facebook. Hello, good evening everyone and good afternoon here in Middle East. Happy New Year to everyone. And Happy New Year to all our participants in Zoom and as well as in Facebook. Because the last time that we had our live was last year. So this is the first Facebook Live, and it's good because we have a starter with Niner. And but before anything else, I would like to introduce to you our new admin. Please welcome Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Sir Pheelyp. Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes,
Hi there.
Michelle. Yeah, Michelle, let's just start. Mag-start ka na ng job as an admin. Please introduce topic.
All right. Well, thank you for the warm welcome again. Good evening once again. So for today's IELTS reading lecture series, we will be having IELTS reading versus OET reading. This will be tackled with our one of the Niner from the Niner Review Center, Sir Pheelyp Aytona. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, guys. Hi. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud
Cool.
and clear.
Hello.
Yes, Sir Philip. The floor is yours now. We can start.
I see. All right. So it's good. Oh, it's good that you guys. Well, thank you very much for having us here at your group once again. It's always good working with people who are committed to doing well in their exam. Maganda ka trabaho ang mga masisipag na tao. There are some people who are in the waiting room. I think that you guys would be handling the ingress of these people. So let's get started. Let's get started. Tonight we'll be comparing and contrasting the differences between the reading subtests in the IELTS exam and the OET and the reading subtest in the OET. It's always good for you to know what your options are. Alin bang mas magandang exam para sa akin? Is it the IELTS? Is it the OET? Etc. So all of us are nurses here. And some people prefer the IELTS on one hand because of various reasons. Others prefer the OET. It's good for you to be informed regarding the differences so that you can make the best decision. Let's get started. So let's discuss IELTS first. What happens in the IELTS exam? In the IELTS reading exam, at least. Now, IELTS reading is very different depending on which version of the IELTS you're taking. Because there are two versions, yung general training plus yung academic. Now, since we're nurses, and I assume that you would be taking the IELTS in order to work abroad, ganyan, to register as a nurse in another English-speaking country, I assume that you're going to be doing IELTS reading. IELTS academic. And in IELTS academic for the reading subtest, what you get here is three long texts. These are, what would you be reading here? You're going to be reading relatively complicated texts, nothing that requires expert knowledge, of course, nothing. It would be accessible to a general audience. This means that you don't need to be a scientist to be able to comprehend the topics that are given here. However, they can be anything under the sun. It can be about agriculture, it can be about the solar system, it can be about dinosaurs, it can be about geology, literally anything under the sun. However, again, as I said, it's of general interest, and there is not going to be a lot of jargon that you're going to encounter here. The difficulty here may be lack of familiarity with the topic, since we're not astronomers, we're not We're not scientists. Now, these three long texts, so there's three. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Reading in the IELTS is out of 40 points. So the first text is usually 13 points, and then the next text is 13 points, and then the last text is something like 40 points. Sometimes not all the time, but the total is always 40. Now we begin with the most important question. Sir, how many points do we need in order to pass? In the IELTS exam, you get for each subtests, listening, reading, writing, and speaking, you get a score between 0 to 9. 0 means that you didn't show up, absent ka, or late ka. On the other hand, 9 means that, I guess you got everything right. Most of the time, the goal for reading is a 7. If you're headed to Australia, to New Zealand, to the UK, 7. If you're headed to the States, well, there is no, when you're going to be applying for visa screen, as far as I know, the requirement there is a 7 in speaking and a 6.5 in your total band score. What this means is that there is no minimum grade if you're headed to the States, but the overall band score is what is being looked at, as well as your speaking. This means that, nevertheless, though, it's always a good idea for you to be able to score as high as you can para yung overall band score tumaas din. In general, the goal is 7. And what is a 7.0 out of 40? According to the websites, www.ielts.org, to get a 7.0, you need something like a 30. A 30, usually, but not all the time, gets you a 7.0. Not all the time, though, because the grade equivalency is adjusted depending on the level of difficulty of the exam. Siyempre, iba-iba yung version ng exam. Hindi umuulit yan. Because for obvious reasons, for test security, you don't want leakage happening, etc. So there are multiple versions of the reading test, just like there are multiple versions of the listening test. The Cambridge, one of the owners of IELTS, is responsible for developing materials. And they spend actually quite a lot of time developing yung mga itetest mo sa exam. Yung listening, reading, writing, speaking. They spend quite a lot of time, like roughly like an hour, like a year, a year's worth of effort in order to develop yung mga materials na gagamitin mo in your test. However, despite this 1 year of effort, it's still hindi pa rin nila nasa-standardize ahead of time yung difficulty. They always only find out how difficult it is after the test is given. Now, why do they check it? Why do they check? Why does it matter what the level of difficulty is? It matters because your grade should be dependent on your skill. After all, you are taking an English exam. So this means that dapat yung basehan ng grade mo, yung English mo. If you're good in English, therefore you should get a high grade. If you're not so good in English, then you should get a lower grade. Pero when you think about it, if may a person, kaya lang pala siya bumagsak kasi nagkataon, mahirap yung exam na napunta sa kanya. Kasi yung isang tao, kaya lang pala siya pumasa kasi nagkataon, madali yung version na natapat sa kanya. In that sense, what determined their grades? Was it their English? Or was it the exam? One person failed kasi mahirap yung natapat sa kanya. Another person passed kasi madali yung natapat sa kanya. What determined their grade? Their English or the exam? What determined their grade? One person failed kasi nagkataon mahirap yung natapat sa kanya. Another person passed kasi nagkataon madali yung natapat sa kanya. What determined their grade? Was it their English or the exam? Correct, Hale. It was the exam. But we're not trying to determine whether the exam is easy or not. That's not the variable that we want to assess. No, it's not their English, but it's not their English that determined their performance. Because the only reason a person passed is because madali yun ang tapat sa kanya. The only reason another person failed is because mahirap yun ang tapat sa kanya. It's not standard. So ang nangyayari doon, if ever that is the case, what determines their fates, their grades, is the test. That's not fair. Because that's not what we're trying to measure, yung difficulty of the exam. That's what we call an extraneous variable. If you remember your research, that's what we call a confounding variable. Panggulo na variable. We're not trying to determine whether the exam is easy or not. What we're trying to determine is whether magaling ka ba mag-reading. Eh yun na nga, they can't standardize these exams ahead of time. So what do they do na lang? What they do is that they adjust yung grade boundaries. So what does that mean? So normally, average level of difficulty, in order for you to get a 7, kailangan mo ng 30. However, if it's like harder than usual, sige, 29, pwede na yan. Or 28, pwede na yan para maka-7. Partida, to give allowance for the extra difficulty that you encountered because you got the hard one. Same thing, if it's easier than usual, kung mas madali siya than usual, excuse me, kailangan mong maka-31 or kailangan mong maka-32 para karapat-dapat ka dyan sa 7. Are you with me? Are you with me? So, ina-adjust yung equivalence ng raw score dun sa final score in order to take into consideration yung variance, yung difference in the level of difficulty of the different versions of the exam. Are you with me? Hi, are you alive? Are you with me? Do you get that? Hello? Yes, lovely. Good to know. Good to know. So what this means is that this is meant to be reassuring. This is meant to be comforting. That no matter what version of the exam you take, whether it's easy, average, or difficult, whether you take the exam in the Middle East or in the Philippines or in Canada, whether you took it last year or this year or next year, it doesn't matter. Hindi siya chambahan, but rather it's going to be dependent on your skill, on your performance. It's very reassuring. As long as you do the work, you're going to be able to get the grade. So there. Common reason that people face, not a common reason, the most common reason for people to fail in reading is time. You run out of time. You have only 1 hour kasi here for the reading subtests. Isang oras naman. You have 1 hour. When you take the actual tests, there's going to be a dambuhalang like clock or countdown timer that's projected in front so that you are not unaware of how much time you have left. In addition, may pa-time check sila dyan. 40 minutes left, 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left. So wala kang kawala. Kahit na super sub-sub ka dun sa ginagawa mo, hindi ka makatingin dun sa clock in front of you, you are informed of how much time is left because meron silang pa-time check. 1 hour seems like a long time, but believe me when I say, and those who have tried the exam before or who have tried exercises before, they know this to be true. Sobrang bilis lang 1 hour na yan. It's really, really very, very fast. So the most common reason really for people to fail in reading is time. No matter kasi how smart you are, if you do not have time to read the text, you're going to end up guessing. Mahuhula at mahuhula ka dyan. You know what I mean? You know, who here have taken the IELTS before? Or who have, I don't know, taken an IELTS exercise before? Meron ba? Is there anyone here who has taken the IELTS before? Or who has taken an IELTS exercise before? It seems wala. Try mo minsan. Pam did. Lynette has as well. So these two people would know how very, very fast 1 hour is. You should try it. No? There are lots of materials available online. You can try the IELTS website, www.ielts.org. There are lots of materials. You can try it out. I have a question. No? A common error when it comes to reading is how you manage your time. You have 1 hour. You have 3 long texts. Sa tingin mo, how should you be dividing this 1 hour of yours? How much time should you spend per text? How much time should you be spending per text? You have 1 hour. You have 3 texts. How much time per text you think should you be allotting? 20 minutes each. That seems logical. That seems logical. So 20 minutes here. Tapos 20 minutes here. Tapos 20 minutes here. That makes more sense. That makes more sense. Maria Regina Monica Mila has another idea. 15 minutes for part 1, 20 minutes for part 2, 25 minutes for part 3. So that is a total of 60 minutes. Niner has a different idea. You see, if you have things like that, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, when you think about it, the assumption here of this kind of pattern is, the assumption here is, after 20 minutes, you go now to the next passage and you don't go back anymore to the first text. After 20 minutes, whoosh, you go now to the third passage and you don't go back anymore to the previous text. In other words, tapusin mo na. When you're there, finish this text because you're never going to go back to it anymore. This is ideal, but when we examine what actually happens in the real world, this rarely happens. Really doesn't happen. You know what happens? 20 so first text 20 minutes. 13 points, my 13 questions, Jan. These questions though, some of them are easy, but some of them are hard. So what ends up happening is that nasa stuck yung tao dun sa hard question. Pagpipilitan mo kasi I have to spend extra time here because I have no plans of going back here later. While I'm here, I must finish it and answer these difficult questions. You spend an extra 5 minutes. Same thing happens here in the second text. There are difficult questions here as well. And because wala kang planong balikan to mamaya, habang nandito ka, tapusin mo na. I have to answer these difficult questions. You end up spending extra time. 25 plus 25, how much is that? 25 plus 25, how much is that? 25 plus 25, how much is that? 50. How much time, therefore, do you have left for the third text? Ponyeta, you only have 10 minutes left. This happens more often than you think. For the longest, most difficult text of them all. Kasi increasing level of difficulty yan eh. Yung 3 texts na yan sa IELTS. Just like in OET, which we'll talk about later. No? Easy, medium, well, it's not easy. Hard, harder, hardest. You end up not having enough time for the last part. You end up guessing. No? Multiple choice, B, 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 B na lang. No? Or kapag identification, blanco. Hindi ka naman pwede manghula sa dictionary. Diba? It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Generation after generation of students, for those who don't prepare at least. This is unfortunately what happens. Therefore, we identified what the problem here is. Well, one of the problems. One of the problems is that people are committed, pinagpipilitan to answer difficult questions when they're there, when in fact, you can just leave it for later. Unlike in listening, in which the recording is played once only, whoosh, one time, big time. Therefore, wala kang choice. You have to answer it in order. In reading, though, in reading, the text is just there. Hindi siya gumagalaw, hindi siya maglalaho. So during the entire time, you can go back to it anytime you wish. So if you have difficult questions, may nagsa-struggle ka to answer a question, what should you do? What should you do if you encounter a difficult question in reading? What do you think should you do? What do you think should you do when you encounter a difficult question in reading? Nahirapan ka. Oh my God, ang tagal ko na dito. Leave it for later. Exactly, Tin Marcus. Leave it for later. It would still be there later when you go back to it. And in order to take full advantage of this, what we suggest at Niner is just do this. Please do not spend 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. Don't spend 15, 20, 25. Don't do that. But rather, please allot time for you to go back to questions that you have left behind. Ano sabihin nun? Anong tsura nun? Drawing natin. You spend 15 minutes here, and then 15 minutes here, and then 15 minutes here as well. 15 plus 15 plus 15. How much is that? 15 plus 15 plus 15. How much is that? 15 plus 15 plus 15. It's not 46. Correct, it is 45 minutes. Well done. So how much extra time do you have? Therefore, how much extra time do you have? How much time do you allot for going back to questions? 60 minus 45. How much time do you have? Correct. You have 15 additional minutes to go back to questions that you left. So what does that mean? What does that mean in practical terms? So, diba you have 13 points here. Baka, ang magawa mo lang dyan, at the start, 10 points. 10 points. May naiwan kang 3 points. After 15 minutes, finished or not finished, pak, you go to the next text already. Yung naiwan mo, iwan mo na yan. It's more important that you handle the text, that you were able to read the text. Same thing. Dito sa text 2, maybe ang masagutan mo lang dyan, I don't know, 11 points. May dalawa kang nahirapan. Leave it for later. Leave it for later. After 15 minutes, finished or not finished, back, you go to the third text already. And when they're in the third text, the most difficult one, maybe you're not able to answer so many as well. Naka-9 ka lang dyan. 9 points. There are 5 points there. Di ka talaga sure, you're not able to think about it. Iniwan mo yung 5. It's okay. How many questions have we been able to answer so far? Hi. How many questions have we been able to answer so far? How many questions have we been able to answer so far? 30 questions. These are the easier questions. Easy, medium questions. Ganyan. It is much more important for you to answer the easy and medium questions na makarami ka na easy and medium questions kesa na pagtyagaan mong sagutin ng tama yung mga hard questions. Because one easy question, 1 point. One hard question, 1 point din. Pareho lang. So, mas importante, mas profitable. It's in your best interest in order for you to be able to answer more easy questions rather than to answer a few difficult questions. Ibang usapan, of course, if one difficult question is worth 5 points or one difficult question is worth 3 points, pagtyagaan mo yung difficult questions in that case. Eh, hindi naman eh. No? Patas sila ng points. So, therefore, it's much more important na makarami ka dun sa madadali. And if you allot time at the end, in this case, 15 minutes, if you definitely allot time at the end, hindi ka manghihinayang to let go of these questions. Mamaya na yan, I will have time for it later. I will answer it mamaya. I will move on. I know this makes sense to you. It makes sense, diba? Parang common sense. However, it takes time for you to get used to doing it. It does. It really does. Because a lot of people, they don't implement this test taking strategy. They answer questions in order. Parang listening lang. Pinagpipilitan na matapos yung hard questions even though they could leave it for later. And that is a recipe for disaster because you end up not having time for the last, most difficult, most challenging text of them all. Are you with me so far? Yeah. So if ever you're curious about the IELTS reading, try mo siya. Maraming mga materials online, they're completely free so that you can get a feel for it. Now, there was a question earlier. If you have questions about IELTS reading anytime, just ask questions. So somebody asked, Angel Therese Idanan de Villenia, Sir, sa reading po ba, all types of questions like multiple choice, headings, etc. will be present? Yeah. There is, in fact, a type of question in IELTS reading that is particularly challenging. My identification, that's true. There is multiple choice, matching headings, that's true as well. But the type of question that is unique to the IELTS exam, at least when you compare it to the OET, is a question type called true, false, not given. Have you heard of this question type? When I took my own IELTS exam before, this is the type of question that I found the most difficult kasi medyo magulo siya. Pag-usapan natin siya briefly so that you have an idea what it is that I'm talking about. So, in true, false, not given, you're given a statement and you're asked whether the statement is true according to the passage. Is the statement false according to the passage? Or is the statement not given according to the passage? So, when is it true? When is it false? And when is it not given? The statement is true if what the statement says, a statement is true if what the statement says is exactly the same as what the passage says. The statement is false if what the statement says is the opposite of the passage. A statement is not given if what the statement says was not mentioned at all in the passage. Now, the principles, of course, seem easy, but when you apply them, doon nagkakanda leche. For example, let's have an example. Let's start with something easy. Okay, so for example, the passage says, I don't know, Philip likes boys. Wait, Philip likes girls. Yeah. Statement says, Philip likes boys. Yay. Now, is the statement true, false, or not given according to the passage? What you think? What you think? Passage says Philip likes boys. Statement says passage says Philip likes girls. The statement says Philip likes boys. Is the statement true, false, or not given? Lynette Rovera says false. Tin Marquez says false as well. Pam O says false. So does Randy De Luna false. So that's 4 falses. How about the rest of you? What do you think? Christine, Divina De, Michelle thinks it's not given. Joy Malaki, Herbie, Hale. What do you think? Passage says Philip likes girls. The statement says Philip likes boys. Is the statement true, false, or not given? Oh, let's wait for them. Maybe they can't hear me. Maria Regina Monica Mila, what do you think? Mavic, Miles, what do you think? Is the statement true, false, or not given? Vani, Jessamine Navalda, what do you think? Divina says false. So that's 5 falses and 1 not given. Okay, let's work with that, I guess. So most of you think it's false. What is the opposite of what's the opposite of Philip likes girls? What's the opposite of Philip likes coffee? What's the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Classmates, what's the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Hello. What is the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Hello. What is the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Hello. What is the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Coffee. Coffee. What's the opposite of Philip likes coffee? Philip does not like coffee. Correct. So therefore, what is the opposite of Philip likes girls? And therefore, what is the opposite of Philip likes girls? Hello. Therefore, what is the opposite of Philip likes girls? Likes boys? Let's try again. Let's try again. If I say that Philip likes girls, likes coffee, the opposite of that is Philip dislikes coffee. Therefore, okay, it seems that the rest of you get it. Adrian, Manuel Severo, where are these coming from? Facebook. Okay, I can't see it. Correct. So if we say Philip likes girls, the opposite of that is Philip dislikes girls, hates girls, etc. Is that what the statement says? Is that what the statement says? It's not what the statement says. So therefore, the answer is not false. Hold on. The answer is not false. Not false. Wait. You know what? Tricky, right? Tricky. When the statement is true, it's easy. Really, it's determining whether it's false or not given that's challenging. So let's review. When is the statement false again? when it is opposites. And how do you know it's opposites? It's opposites when it is what you call mutually exclusive. What does mutually exclusive mean? What does mutually exclusive mean? Mutually exclusive means that in English, they cannot be true at the same time. Tagalog, hindi pwedeng magsabay. Let's analyze. If Pheelyp likes girls, can he also like boys at the same time? If Pheelyp likes girls, can he also like boys at the same time? If Pheelyp likes girls, can he also like boys at the same time? Yes, of course. What do you call Pheelyp in this case? Flexible, diba? Friendly, accommodating, charot. So pwedeng magsabay. Therefore, the answer is, at this stage, not false. Kasi kailan lang siya false? Kung hindi pwedeng magsabay. What do you mean by X magsabay? This is what it means, Hill. They cannot be true at the same time. Hindi pwedeng sabay na totoo. So dito, pwedeng sabay na totoo. Pheelyp likes girls and Pheelyp likes boys at the same time. That's what it means. So when is it false? When they cannot be true at the same time, hindi pwedeng magsabay. Eh dito pwede magsabay. Therefore, the answer is not false. Let's continue analyzing. Are boys the same as girls? Are boys the same as girls? Are boys the same as girls? No, they're not. Therefore, the answer is not true. Because it's only true when what the statement says is exactly the same as what the passage says. Right? So not true, not false. Therefore, now we have an answer. The answer is not given. Not given. Let's try again. Let's try again. Let's try again. Passage says, your lecturer tonight is Pheelyp. The passage says, your lecturer tonight is Pheelyp. The statement says, your lecturer tonight, Brian. Your lecturer tonight is Brian. Let's analyze. If your lecturer tonight is Pheelyp, can your lecturer tonight also be Brian at the same time? Yes or no? Hi. If your lecturer tonight is Pheelyp, can your lecturer tonight also be Brian at the same time? Yes or no? No. I am not two people. I am only one. So they cannot be true at the same time. What's the answer here? Is the statement true, false, or not given? False. Very good. I think you're getting it. I think you're getting it. Not bad. One more. Pheelyp, I don't know, likes blue. Statements, Pheelyp likes green. If Pheelyp let's analyze. If Pheelyp likes blue, can he like green at the same time? If Pheelyp likes blue, can he like green at the same time? Focus. Yes, he can. Therefore, pwedeng magsabay. At kung pwedeng magsabay, what's the answer? Not false. It's not automatically not given. It is, however, for sure, not false. Let's continue analyzing. Are green and blue the same? Are green and blue the same? No, they're not. Therefore, the answer is not true. Therefore, the answer is not true. Not false, not true, not false. Now the answer is not given. Let's try something harder. In the exam, of course, you'll get nothing like that. Passage says Pheelyp likes cookies and boys. The statement says Pheelyp likes boys. Is the statement true, false, or not given? Well, let's analyze the keywords. Did we talk about Pheelyp in the passage? Yes. Did we talk about Pheelyp liking? Yes. Did we talk about Pheelyp liking boys? Yes. So all the keywords in the statement are in the passage. So check, check, check. I'm sorry, like that. Check, check, check. Therefore, you are correct. The answer is true. Sir, may extra O. There's extra information in the passage. If there's extra information in the passage, the policy there is a bear, which means it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. No, it has no bearing. Of course, there will be more information in the passage. It's several paragraphs long, but it's the statement that you're being asked to assess, not the passage. So think about it this way. If I like A and B, does that mean that I like B? If I like A and B, does that mean that I like B? If I like A and B, does that mean that I like B? Yes. If I like B, does that mean that I like B? Yes. So therefore, it has no bearing whether A is there or not. It is the keywords of the statement that you should be focusing on. Sir, what if it's the other way around? What if it's the other way around? Pheelyp likes cookies. State according to the passage. The statement says Pheelyp likes cookies and boys. Keywords. We talked about Pheelyp in the passage. That's true. Pheelyp liking in the passage. That's true. Pheelyp liking cookies in the passage. That's true. But we did not talk about boys. If the extra information is in the passage, give there. Doesn't matter. However, if the extra information is in the statements, the answer is not given. Hindi binanggit. Are you with me so far? Are you with me so far? Yes? Anong idadagdag mo sa passage? In order for the answer to be false. Sige nga. What would you add to the passage in order for the answer to be false? Pheelyp likes cookies and girls. Hold on. Di ba ginawa natin kanina yun? Hold on. Dito, di ba? Pheelyp likes girls. Pheelyp likes boys. Magiging false ba yung sagot? Pheelyp likes girls. Pheelyp, not given nga pala. So let's try again. What would you add dito sa passage in order for the answer to be false? Try again. Dislikes. Very good. Dislikes what? Michelle says, no. Adrian Manuel Severo. You can't change the likes. No? The likes is here. It's there. As is yan. As is to. The question is, what would you add here in order for the answer to be false? Oops, sorry. What would you add here sa passage in order for the answer to be false? What Stella says, and girls. Oh, pero di ba ginawa nga natin kanina yan? Pheelyp likes girls. Pheelyp likes boys. The answer is not false there. The answer is not false. The answer is not false. The answer is not given. The question is, anong idadagdag? So let's try again. Anong idadagdag mo dito? What would you add here in order to make the answer false? Cakes. Pheelyp likes cookies and cakes. And dislikes boys. Very good, Tin Marcus. Well done. If Pheelyp dislikes boys, he cannot like boys at the same time. Those two things cannot be true at the same time. Therefore, the answer then would be false. Very good, Tin Marcus. Not bad. But guys, what if it's like this naman? What if it's like this? The passage says Pheelyp likes cookies and boys. The statement says Pheelyp likes only boys. What's the answer here? Well, let's check the keywords. We talk about Pheelyp in the past. Oops, sorry. We talked about Pheelyp in the passage. We talked about Pheelyp liking in the passage. We talked about Pheelyp liking boys in the passage. Ang pag-iisipan mo na lang sa brain is si only. What is only in Filipino? Only. What's only in Filipino? Only. What's only in Filipino? Only. What's only in Filipino? Lang. Correct, Jocelyn. Yun, lang. Correct, Miles. So, boys lang, yung like ko. So, what does that mean? Do I like cookies or dislike cookies? If I like only boys and cookies are not boys, what am I saying in the statement? I dislike cookies. Very good, Maria Regina Monica. Ang sabi ng passage, I like cookies. Ang sabi ng statement, I don't like cookies because they're not boys. They cannot be true at the same time. Therefore, what's the answer here? Sabi ng passage, I like cookies. Sabi ng statement, I dislike cookies kasi hindi siya boys. Correct. The answer here is false. What is the only difference, guys, between ito tsaka to? These two pairs. What's the only difference? They seem very similar to each other, do they not? What's the only difference between them? The word only. Yeah. Therefore, do keywords matter? Keywords matter. Keywords ang labanan sa listening, reading, writing, or speaking, whether in the Ielts exam or in the OET. You really do need to be very alert, very aware of your keywords. Keywords ka papasa, keywords ka babagsak. As illustrated here, every keyword makes a difference. Let's try one last pair. Hirapan natin ng very slight. Very, very slight. Passage says, let's put it here. Passage says, most of the pupils are sick with dengue. It says, a few of the students are immune to the disease. The passage says, most of the students are sick with dengue. The statement says, a few of the pupils are immune to the disease. What's your answer here? What's your answer here? I am curious. True? False? Or is it not given? I'm curious. What's your answer? Danette, Jeff, Maristella, and Tin all answer not given. Let's see if they're right. To make your life easier here, it's usually a good idea for you to cancel things that you can match. Sino kapartner ni students? Si pupil. Sino kapartner ni students? Si pupil. Sino kapartner ni disease? Si dengue, right? So you can just cancel these things. Cancel, 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 so that your life is easier. So you're left with a more basic statement. The passage says most are sick. The statement says a few are immune. If most are sick, that means that a few are. If you want to paraphrase this, if most are sick, that means that a few are. Hello. If most are sick, that means that a few are. Hello. Oh, immune? Let's try again. Are not sick. Yeah, essentially. Correct, Miles. You're not sick. Let's wait. I think some people were confused there. So, for example, there's a group of, I don't know, 3 people. If most are girls, if most are female, that means that a few are. Hello. If most are female, that means that a few are male. So this means that if you have only 2 ideas and then you reverse them, reverse, reverse, they mean exactly the same thing. If most are female, then malamang a few of them are not female, which means that they're male. So if most are sick, that means that a few are not sick. So this allows us to cancel few are. So the only thing that you're actually left with here is itong natitira. Sick, immune. No, not sick and immune. The passage says not sick. The statement says immune. If you are not sick, does that mean that you're immune? If you are not sick, does that mean that you are immune? Yes, no? Why am I getting different answers? Hold on. Kung wala kang sakit, ibig sabihin ba nun na hindi ka na pwedeng tablan? Like, hold on. If you do not have diabetes now, does that mean that you are immune to diabetes? If you do not have cancer right now, does that mean that you are immune to cancer? Not really. No, it doesn't. So if you are not sick, does that mean that you are immune? No, it does not follow. What is another way of saying immune? Well, what's another way of saying immune? You are sure that you are not sick, right? That's what immune means. Siguradong hindi ka na pwedeng tablan. Not sick, not sick. We are left with extra information in the statements. And as we discussed earlier, if you have extra information in the statement, the answer is not given. What if it's the other way around, though? What if it's the other way around? The passage says, sure that you're not sick. Passage says you're immune. The statement says you're not sick. If you're sure that you're not sick, does that mean that you're not sick? If you were immune, does that mean that you're not sick? Hello? If you were immune, does that mean that you're not sick? If you're immune to dengue, does that mean that you are not sick of dengue? If you are immune to dengue, does that mean that you are not sick of dengue? Yes, it does. What's the answer here? What's the answer here? Not sick, not sick. Therefore, the answer is true. Good. Sir, may extra sa passage. What's our policy kapag may extra sa passage? Keber. Doesn't really matter. So you can see that it requires a little bit of logic and a huge amount of attention to your keywords. That's why people who take the exam consistently find the true false not given type of question challenging when it comes to IELTS reading. When I took my exam, this was the only type of question that I found challenging as well. It required more brain cells than the other types. So definitely something that you need to practice and watch out for in your own test should you choose to take the IELTS. That I think is a useful overview of the reading subtest. Do you have any questions regarding the IELTS reading subtest? Anything I can clarify at this point? Any questions that you have? One of the main benefits of live discussions such as this is immediate, instant feedback regarding any concerns that you have. Is there anything about IELTS reading that I can help you with? Anything I can answer or clarify? Anything at all? Oh, by the way, when it comes to IELTS reading, may answer sheets. So my questionnaire, tapos may answer sheets. When you're answering, magsulat ka na diretso sa answer sheets. Because if you don't do that, kaya nasa questionnaire, dun ka sa questionnaire nagsusulat. Hala, mamaya, at the end of the test, you have to transfer all of that to the answer sheet. Wasting time. 40 items din yun. Sayang yung oras. At kung hindi mo siya nalipat sa answer sheet, yung mga sagot mo na sa questionnaire lang, zero ka. Zero yung score. And unfortunately, that has happened before. People who no longer had time to transfer their answers to the answer sheet. So in order to avoid that fate, diretso mo na sa answer sheet yung mga sagot. Any questions about IELTS reading? Going, anything? Gone. All right, let's talk about OET. Let's talk about OET. Ano naman, okay, Lynette Rivero. Sir, how about computer-based? What about it? What's your question about the computer-based test? Lynette Rivero, what's your question regarding the computer-based test?
Sir, does it we have to put it directly? The answer should be put directly to the computer, or we have also some papers?
No papers. You
Directly.
answer. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Nagulat ako, bigla siya nagsalita. Akala ko mag-chat lang din siya. Nagulat ka din ba? Nagulat ka din ba? But that's okay. Yes, ako din. Nagulat tayong lahat. Maraming salamat, Lynette Rover. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's sometimes faster, I suppose, if you do it like that. Mabagal kasi. Oh, may point naman siya. Any other questions regarding IELTS? You're welcome, Maria Regina Monica Mila. Go, Pam. Oh, what's your question? How about headings? What about it? What's your question about them? Pam has difficulty matching the headings. Okay, let's talk about that very briefly. Matching headings is when you have different paragraphs. So paragraph, 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 paragraph. A passage kasi has different paragraphs. Kada paragraph, there is one main idea. Maybe the main idea of this one is X. Maybe the main idea is Y. Here, maybe the main idea is Z. Now, may listahan ng headings. Headings parang ano yan, parang title. So, A, maybe banana, B, songs, C, maybe the title is table, D, maybe the title is vaccine, etc. So, of course, in the actual exam, these things are longer, but essentially they are made out of keywords. Sometimes it's difficult to match headings kasi binasa mo yung passage, diba? Basa, basa, basa. Pero shit, hindi mo na-gets yung main idea niya. You didn't get it. No? So you end up guessing. You end up guessing na lang dito sa mga choices na to. So para dumali ang buhay mo, well, realize that sure ka ba na isa dito sa mga headings na to yung sagot dito sa paragraph na yun? Hello, are you sure that one of these headings is the answer for this one? Yes, malamang, diba? Hindi ka naman siguro magsasuggest ng panibagong heading. Ay, ma'am, I have a suggestion. Gawa tayo ng heading. Wow! No? Cambridge, is that you? So not at all. So therefore, para dumali ang buhay, kung nahihirapan ka to match the heading, then just use the heading. And that is what you search for. This is what you scan for in the passage. May banana. Maghanap ka ng banana dyan. May banana ba dito? Banana. Wala. Okay. Croissant. May croissant ba dito? Croissant. Ay, ayun, no? Hanap mo. Pastry. Pastry. Croissant. Check. Therefore, what's the answer here? Therefore, what's the answer? It'd be, parang ganun. Para dumali ang buhay. Just use the headings, the keywords of the headings, then look for them, scan for them in the paragraph. You will find the one that is the match. Understood? O. You're welcome. Any other questions regarding IELTS reading? Going, gone. I noticed that we have been working for around an hour now. Seems it now I think would be a good time for us to have a 5-minute break for you to go to the bathroom maybe, or grab a cup of coffee, etc. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes for a quick break. Before we go to a break though, Joycia Ferreras is asking, what to read first, sir? The passage or the question? Definitely read the questions first. Read the questions, pay attention to the keywords. Keywords ang labanan sa IELTS, just like in reading. So that after reading the question, di ba, babasahin mo yung passage, you will read the entire passage. And when reading the passage, mahahalata mo yung keywords ng question. So that you know where to look. Smart. Good. Yes, you can highlight questions in the computer-based tests. Angel 3, Sidanan Dabilen. Any other questions? Pag meron pong di nasagutan, is there any penalty? Of course, there's a penalty. But wala kang score dun sa number. If you're asking, is there additional penalty for leaving things blank? Wala naman. It's not right minus wrong. So it's not the upcut. So if you don't answer something, edi -1 ka dun. Pero kung sinagutan mo, tas mali ka, -1. Kung wala kang sinulat, -1. So there is no extra penalty for leaving anything blank. Marijo, Andres, that's enough. Questions are good. Anything else? Going? Anything? Gone. Okay. Let's have a quick 5-minute break so that you are not overly stressed, not overly tired. I'll turn you over to the hosts, Michelle. Yeah. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So you handle them first.
Yeah. 5 minutes, sir.
Yes. Take care.
Hi, Michelle. So, so let's not make this as dead air. Michelle, since you are a new admin, what made you decide to be an admin in IFNG?
Well,
Or also why you like to help our members?
well, this group actually helped me a lot. And so when I passed the IELTS, I decided even before I take the IELTS, I really wanted to help as well. So I know the admins are the same as what what I feel. So that's why. So when I finally got my result, that's the time. At the same time as well, I saw your post again, Sir Jeff, that you still needed a person, an
Yeah,
admin.
support. We need support.
Yes.
Because we're all busy. We have our own job. We have our own family. So
I felt that as well, Sir Jeff. I think before the last class that I have attended, when you were late that time, you're going for your night duty, and I was waiting already. I said, it's already 9. Why they're starting yet? And suddenly you said, you just and you're going to your duty. So I said, oh, they're very busy, but still they give
yeah.
their time, knowing that
Okay.
it's free. Yeah, so
Mitch,
it's
ano yung gusto mong sabihin sa mga members na nanonood na nagpe-prepare ng IELTS?
yes,
Did you
actually
struggle also in preparing?
my Waterloo actually is writing. That's my struggle. So I see to it, since this is not the first time I took IELTS. I had IELTS before, way back in 2006, I think. Yeah, 2006. And my writing that time was the lowest that I got. So I know that's what I should improve. So when I decided to retake again, I focus on the writing. And
Okay.
then with the speaking as well, because I don't have that much vocabulary. So I can speak at
Guys,
times.
especially for those nurses that planning to go to United Kingdom or Ireland, I advise for writing, you really need an expert. So you need to look for review center because there should be someone who will check um, your writing or essays, because in IFNG we are not expert to check your to check your right essays, unless sometimes you have a guess, but not every day or every time we have that.
And we know
So
naman, Sir Jeff, what's our Waterloo talaga, what we have to improve. So I think Sir Pheelyp is back. Hi, sir.
Yeah, on that note of requiring experts to help, well, we at Niner are more than happy to help people and give them feedback on their strengths and areas for improvement. When it comes to the subjective tests, which are writing and speaking, yeah, listening and reading are indeed sub-objective tests. There's an answer key, and you can just assess yourself. The text is just there, but writing and speaking definitely you need somebody there to help guide you towards the right path. I believe we will be having sessions regarding writing in the future. Hopefully so, with Niner. All right, thank you very much. Hopefully the rest of you have gotten a break already. Hale is asking, could you recommend some websites for online study of IELTS? A great way to begin is to go to the IELTS website, www.ielts.org. Sobrang daming resources doon. Magsawa ka. Pag natapos mo na, tanong ka ulit. Kapag naubos mo yung mga resources doon. Kasi sobrang dami. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now that we have had our short break, let's discuss OET writing. What is the difference between the IELTS reading and OET reading? In the first place, the OET exam though it is still an English test, it is a healthcare focused test. So instead of like reading about, sorry about that, instead of reading about astronomy or agriculture or the environment, here we would be reading about pneumonia, diabetes, dialysis, paracetamol, metformin, coamoxiclav, things that are very familiar to us as healthcare workers. The OET is the only exam, the only English exam at least, that is specialized for healthcare workers like us. The OET is accepted in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, the UK, some states in the US as well, and Singapore and other countries. So what happens in OET reading? What's the difference? Let's talk about it. Quite different, in fact. Quite different. The reading subtest in OET, there are 3 parts there. Part A, Part B, Part C. Part A of your OET, these parts, by the way, are just like your listening IELTS reading parts, in which they are an increasing level of difficulty: easy, medium, hard. Or, as some people would like to think about it, hard, harder, hardest. How many points are these? Part A is 20 points. Part B is 6 points. Part C is 16 points. For a total of how many? Hello, mathematics. How many points in total is your reading sa OET? Kung sa IELTS reading, it's a total of 40 points. How about here in OET reading? How many points do we have in total? Hello. 20 plus 6 plus 16. Ilan yan? Galaw-galaw. 20 plus 6 plus 16. How many points is that? You can do it. I believe it. 20 plus 6 plus 16. 34? 42. Yes, correct, Naruto and Lynette Rivero. 42 points. Sulat natin. Review mathematics, Miles, bago magbigay ng medications sa mga patients in the future. So 42 points. We begin with the most important question. Sir, how many points do we need in order to pass? Usually, meaning not always, you need 30 points in order for you to get a B. A B is the equivalent of a 7.0, the IELTS. And just like in the IELTS exam, sometimes the exams are easier than usual, sometimes sakto lang, sometimes they're harder than usual. So everything that we talked about earlier regarding yung adjustment and grade boundaries, they apply here as well. So what does that mean? If the version that you got is a little harder than usual, 29 pwede na yan, or 28 pwede na yan for you to get a B. Partida, kasi mahirap. Similarly, if it's easier than usual, excuse me, kailangan mo maka 31 or maka 32 para karapat dapat ka dyan sa B na yan. This is also meant to be reassuring so that hindi tsambahan or luck or fortune yung magiging basehan ng grade mo, but rather it's gonna be based on your skills. If you're good, it doesn't matter when you take your exam, where you take your exam, hindi siya tsambahan. So there. So how many points? Usually 30 points. And itong parts A, B, and C, these three are divided into two. You see, itong part A, hindi sabay-sabay kasi binibigay. Unlike sa IELTS reading, na sabay-sabay binibigay yung text 1, 2, 3. Here, part A muna. Here you're given 15 minutes. 15 minutes to do it. After 15 minutes, the papers are taken away from you. Tapos, tsaka lang ibibigay yung parts B and C, which lasts for 45 minutes. Something like that. Something like that. Bakit ganun? Bakit ganun? Because the reason for that is dito kasi sa part A, what is being assessed here is your ability to read for specific information. Specific information. For example, you're being asked here to read for specific information in a relatively rapid manner, in a short amount of time. Mabilisan. Kasi we read in different ways. Sometimes we read ng dibdiban. We read in depth. We zoom in. We look at subtext and argumentation. Sometimes, though, we read very superficially. We're just literally getting isang pirasong information, one bit of data. And this is simulated by, in the first part, in part A, what are you going to be asked to read? Here in the first part, what you're asked to read are references. References. Everyone, type references. 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 Come on, it's 10 letters. References. Type it. References. Hello, hello, hello. References. Yeah. References. Here you're given references. Type it. References. Good. Can you give me examples of references that you consult during duty? During duty, we're not expected to know everything. And we forget something sometimes. Can you give me examples of references that we consult during duty na tinitignan natin habang nagtatrabaho? Because we don't bring textbooks to duty. We're expected to have read them already during school. But while we're working, we're not expected to know everything. Can you give me an example of a reference that we consult? I assume you don't know everything. At mahirap mag-Diyos-Diyosan sa ospital. Or kung nasan ka. Can you give me an example of a reference that you use at work? That you look at when you don't know something, etc. The drug book, the drug handbook, policies. Ano nga bang policy natin dito? Ano nga bang gagawin natin? Ganun. Correct. Drug handbook, guidelines, memos, procedure manuals, things like this. Are you familiar with MIMS? Are you familiar with MIMS? Yeah. Di ba sa MIMS, maraming maraming categories yun. Lots of categories in MIMS, right? I will give 5. Bawal umulit. Brand name. Generic name. Dosage. Routes. Adverse effects. Can you give me more things so that you can find more categories in MIMS? Can you give me more? Sure. Reaction. Indication. What else? What else? I assume you're familiar, everyone. Ano pang nakikita natin sa isang drug entry? Di ba ang dami nun? Dami nun. What else comes to mind besides these things? Dami pa yan. Hello, are you alive? What else comes to mind when you think of, what else do you remember from drug entry in this reference that I think we're all familiar with? What are other relevant categories that you can find in this reference? Hello? What are other categories that you can find in a drug entry in MIMS maybe? Or the drug handbook? What else do you remember? I assume you look at them when you work. Anything else? Brand name, generic name, dosage, route, adverse effects, action, indication. Anything else? Ipagpe-pray ko kayo. Kaya niyo. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Oh wow! Ayan, may naisip ko si Naruto. Iba talaga kapag kumakatok sa langit. Pinapakinggan ako ni Jesus. Lol, the contraindication. That's right. Anything else? Excuse me. Okay, let me help you out. It seems you have forgotten. Drug interactions, considerations, nursing considerations, how it affects lab values, tumataas ba yung hematocrit if you take this or not, etc. Adverse effects, side effects, pregnancy risk categories, yung ABCX, mga ganyan, pharmacokinetics, and all of these other things. However, when you consult an entry, you forgot something, for example. Do you read all of these things? Do you read all of these things when you consult it? Binabasa mo lahat yun when you consult it. Do you read everything? Do you read everything? No, you do not. but rather out of the entire entry, you just focus on one thing. You focus on the one part that you want to know. So you scan the entire thing and then you retrieve specific information. And then when you get that specific information, you close the book, you put it down, and then you go back to work. So mabilis lang siya. It's fast reading. And because we do this all the time, this is something, in healthcare, this is something that all healthcare professionals do. They consult references rapidly. This is, and that's why you're given only 15 minutes for this. You're given 15 minutes for this, and it is almost half your grade. It's given because it's important in the real world. It's also important in the old. So there, how many references do you get? You are given 4 references. So reference 1, reference 2, reference 3, reference 4. These references are all about one topic. One topic that is generally accessible to all the 12 professionals that OET is good for. You see, OET is good for healthcare professionals, for doctors, nurses, dentists, podiatrists, mga papa, rad techs, pharmacists, physiotherapists, PT, speech pathologists, veterinary science, etc. I forgot the others. But yeah, so yung reading exam is identical, whatever profession you are. So yung topic na lalabas dyan, hindi siya pang specialists. Vaccines, hand washing, pneumonia, yung mga kilalang topics. There you go. So that's what you get. You get 4 references, and you're expected to answer 20 questions about them in 15 minutes. It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. Because just like in the Ielts, yung 15 minutes, naka-project sa harap. There's a huge countdown timer there. Tapos may pasang check, may pa reminder din sila. Okay, 15 minutes or 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Wow, it's a thrilling experience. That's what happens. How do you write down your answers here? How do you write down your answers? Here, it's parang identification siya. And one thing to remember regarding answering in reading part A is that they are very, very strict. They're very, very strict with how you write down your answers. 100% accuracy is demanded of you. Bawal magkamali. 100% accuracy. In terms of grammar, for example, it has to be grammatically correct. The spelling has to be perfect. Kasi nakasulat naman yung word, right? You're just gonna copy it. Yeah, pwede mag all caps, just like anywhere else. There is no penalty for writing in all caps. In fact, it is better for you to write in all caps here. You know why? Kasi some people have horrible handwriting, and some people's handwriting is so horrible na yung mga examiners nyo, hindi nila ma-verify whether tama yung spelling na ginamit mo. So, it's usually a good idea for you to write in all caps in OET Reading Part A para sure tayo that your letters look like what they are supposed to look like. So we have 2 policies here, all caps, tsaka copy-paste. Remember that reading is a receptive skill. In other words, the answer is being thrown at you. You just have to focus and to catch it and to receive it. Nakasulat yung sagot. So, ika-copy-paste mo lang yung sagot. Kung anong format niya, anong grammar niya, anong spelling niya, copyhin mo na lang. Kasi nandun lang naman siya. Okay? Now, after the 15 minutes, as I said, your papers would be taken from you. Kokolektahin yan. So you don't have enough. So you will not have time to go back to it later on. Kaya natapos ka ng maaga dun sa 45 minutes, you don't get to go back to your reading part A, of course, because that would defeat the purpose of checking how well you read under time pressure. Sa part B naman, once you're given, sabay ibibigay yan, parts B and C. What you're asked to read here is the gist. The gist is like the main idea of something. And here, what you're asked to read are extracts. Extracts, and these extracts, these would be work extracts. Yung mga materials that you encounter in the workplace. Quality control manuals, infection control guidelines, emails from your boss, mga ganyan, pang-trabaho. You get 6 extracts, extract. Yeah, these are what you get. And these extracts are also arranged in increasing level of difficulty. The first 2 extracts, these things, are relatively easy, whereas the last extracts are relatively hard. Specifically, the first extract is super easy. It's really meant to give you confidence and to ease you into the question type. The last extract is always particularly hard and deserves extra brain cells. Extra brain cells. Starting here in part B, hindi mo na isusulat like by word yung mga sagot, but rather it is now scantron. It's shading. So may A, tapos may B, tapos may C, etc. A, B, oops, C. Something like that. And then you will have choices. There's text here, there's text here, and there's text here. Just like in the board exam, Scantron siya. So you're going to be using pencils. In the OET, you use 2B pencils. 2B, Mongol 2 pencils. Because that is the kind of pencil that OET is sure na mapipick up ng kanilang makina. You see, a Mongol 2 pencil has enough graphite in its, in its tip, in its lead, in order for the machine to identify that that is your answer. When you are answering, please make sure to shade it completely. Ganyan. Do not do ganyan or ganyan, but rather kindly shade it. When you're done with part B, you go to part C, which is the most difficult. Part of the poem. Here in part C, here you're asked to read in 2 ways. Read 2 ways. You read 2 things: opinion as well as attitude. What do I mean by reading attitude? You're going to be given texts, kasi here you're going to be given long texts. So long texts. Specifically, you're going to be given 2 of them. We're going to be given 2 of them: long text 1 and long text 2. And just like everything else, this is also an increasing level of difficulty. Hard, tapos harder. The last one, by the way, what makes it particularly hard is that it is almost always about research. Lahat naman tayo nag-thesis, diba? We all wrote our thesis. But for some, it's been a while since you were in school. It's been a while. And maybe you've forgotten these things already. Like, do you still remember in a randomized controlled trial? Ano yung random? Ano yung nirarandom sa isang randomized controlled trial? Do you recall? Does anyone remember? Ano yung nira-randomize in a randomized controlled trial? Does anyone remember? Does anyone remember? In a randomized controlled trial, what is randomized there? In a randomized controlled trial, do you remember? What is randomized there? What is left to chance? What is not determined ahead of time? Hello? Are you still alive? Hala? Wait, hold on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, bro? Maybe they can no longer hear me. Oh, they can. I see. They're just choosing to listen. That's okay then. It's okay. What is a What is a retrospective study? What is a prospective study, for example? What does double blind mean? What is placebo? What is snowball, etc. So mananaadjust yung OET to like give you not research article text, but it's gonna contain research, and therefore the vocabulary and the topics, they may be a little challenging because they are unfamiliar. You haven't thought of them in a while. You haven't like encountered texts like that as well. Now, these long texts, long text 1 and long text 2, they convey opinions, ideas, mga beliefs ng mga different professionals. And sometimes these beliefs, they're either positive or they're negative. And that's where reading for attitude comes into play. So it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Let's have an example. What are some positive words? I will begin. Some positive words are heal, recover, heavenly, cute, happy, recuperate, angelic, charming. Can you give me examples of positive words? Good words. Can you give me examples of positive words? Let's try it. Anything? What words are positive? Can you give it a try? What words are positive? Heal is positive. Recover is positive. Heavenly is positive. Cute. Anything? Beautiful. Positive. What else is positive? Helpful. Generous. Compassionate. What are examples of negative words? Negative words. Well, let me give you examples of negative words. I don't know, like damage, harm, death, unhelpful, demise, despair, anger, wrath. So why am I asking? Kasi some here in part C, sometimes OET feels generous and gives you clues in terms of emotions. Some of the keywords that OET would be offering you, may emotional things. So either positive siya or negative siya. This makes your life a lot easier because if you can correctly identify the emotion that you're supposed to be looking for, mas madaling makakita ng kapartner na keywords because you're supposed to be looking for keywords here, just like in the IELTS exam. If in the question there's this keyword, maybe infection, and then here in the passage you see pneumonia, you're able to match them, then alam mo kung saan sa passage ka dapat tumingin in order for you to answer the question. Something. So it's a good idea here in part C for you to pay attention to the attitude of the keywords that you're given, the emotion of the keywords that you're given. Something like that. In addition, itong here in part C, diba, there are 16 points here. So what that means is 8 points dito in the first long text and 18 points, and 8 points here as well in the second long text. Ang promise ng OET is that one of the 8 questions here in each of the long texts, sulat natin, one of the 8 questions is going to be a vocab question. What does this word mean? Parang ganyan. Or what does this phrase mean? Parang ganun. If you know what the word means, then good for you. You get bonus points. If you do not know what the word means, then that's not a problem as well, because you can just use context clues in order to see how the word is used in the passage. At the same time, another promise of OET is that one question here out of the 8 questions is going to be a reference question. What does that mean? It refers to something that's been mentioned previously in the text. Usually it's a pronoun. Like, let me give an example so that you know what I'm talking about. Here. Yeah. It says here that Niner is helpful. This is a fact. Niner is helpful. This is a fact. Does anyone here know what the pronoun is here in the sentence? Here in these sentences, I mean, Niner is helpful. This is a fact. Does anyone know what the pronoun is in these sentences? Niner is helpful. This is a fact. Well, it seems you don't. That's okay. The pronoun here is this. The job of pronouns, you see, is to substitute ideas or nouns. See, ano yung this na yan? This refers to this. So, ganyan. So, promise ni OET, one of the questions in these long texts is going to be a reference question. Ano tinutukoy nito? Ano yung tinatarget? Ano yung pinag-uusapan ng reference nito? Tapos, yung remaining 6 questions. Remember, there are 6 questions. Sorry, there are 8 questions per long text. Yung 6 questions na yan, they are about opinions. Opinion. So this is your OET reading subtest. Very different, diba? Very, very different compared to the IELTS reading. IELTS reading is general. Like the topics are general in nature. May true, false, not given. Dito sa OET, walang true, false, not given. Walang logic. Kasi sa workplace, we don't have things like that. So that's not a skill that is used frequently in a healthcare workplace, but rather the skills that are used in a healthcare workplace, like being able to identify specific information quickly from references. That's something that we do all the time. When we read for gists, manuals at work, hindi mo naman iniisa-isa yan, diba? You're just getting the general idea from these extracts. That's what you do. And when you encounter long texts, when once in a blue moon, nagbasa ka ng research article, yun yung mas dibdiban na pagbabasa. Very reflective of the real world. And that's one of the good things regarding OET. Yung ginagawa mo sa totoong buhay, yun yung pinapagawa sa'yo sa exam. Kaya hindi nagkakalayo yung experience. Sa totoong buhay, nag-true false not given ka ba? Parang hindi naman, di ba? Sa totoong buhay, nagma-matching headings ka ba? I don't think so. So, the OET is quite more realistic in that sense. Now that we've discussed the two types of reading tests, one for the IELTS and one for the OET, is there anything that you would like to ask me about pagdating dito sa OET reading? Is there anything that I could clarify for you at this point? Now would be a good time for you to ask for questions in case you're curious about something, in case there's something that you'd like to clarify or explain further. Is there anything? Take your time. Take your time. Look at the screen. Is there anything here you'd like me to explain again? Or maybe to say it another way? Anything? Going? Anything? Gone? Okay, great. If you have any further questions, a good question to ask is it difficult? Which is more difficult, the IELTS reading or the OET reading? The answer to that question is that you will perform better in the exam na pinaghandaan mo. So whether IELTS yan, kung pinaghandaan mo, you will do well. If OET yan, kung pinaghandaan mo, you will do well as well. So it's really just a matter of your focus. It's really a matter of your intention and motivation and discipline as well to do well. I think that the reason you're here is because you don't want to stay wherever you are staying right now. And you're not going anywhere without English. English is the first step. It's not the only step. But kung walang English, wala tayong pinag-uusapan. Right? So definitely it's good that you're here because it means that you are getting started in taking that first step towards that life that you want to have. Your friends are not here, for example. Some of your friends are not here. Some of your friends have not even begun reading about the test or preparing for it. But you are. I think I'd like to imagine that the reason why you are preparing for the test now is because you realize that time check, matanda ka na. You're not getting any younger. And the world will not wait for you. But rather, ikaw ang dapat maghanap ng paraan para makapunta ka kung saan mo gusto punta. Thankfully, there are resources, there are people like the support group, there are people like us at Niner as well, and your own support system. There are free resources online, there are additional resources available. You do have to make sense out of them. You have to have structure in your review and be motivated, get support as well from each other, fellow learners and from teachers, etc. Para you will do well in your test. Hopefully, our very brief overview of the two subtests, IELTS reading and OET reading, has helped you to better understand your options, to determine which exam is better for you, IELTS Baho or OET. There are more things to discuss, but I think for tonight, that's something that you can start thinking about. So if you have no more questions, I think we can call it a night. Michelle, are you there? Jeff, are you good?
Yes po, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us again.
Thank you po, sir, for the time and the very informative lecture. I personally enjoyed po the discussion. I
Thank
hope
you.
our viewers do also.
I
And
hope so.
yeah, we were able to grasp all the information and learned a lot from it.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully,
So, and we are looking forward, sir, for our next lecture.
sure. So am I.
Once again, thank you po, sir.
Bye. Take care.
Yes, Michelle. Would like to say thank you to our members and to all our viewers on Facebook. Please don't forget to tag your friends. And if you would like to avail the service of Niner, just message them on their official Facebook. Okay. Okay. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Michelle, for hosting
Thank
this.
you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night.